Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. Shabbat Shalom to Rabbi Kefa and everybody else. Welcome into the room. Thank you for coming. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my lecture because we did have a little power outage over here a short while ago, but it came back. So I'll kickstart my lecture and then I will take questions at the end of it after Rabbi Kefa's done. But I think that this is going to be very important. I have discussed this subject before. This is what makes you, this is what breaks you. Now, it depends if you've ever understood the concept, if you are new to it, and maybe a lot of you people will be new to this subject, but this is not new to me, but this is loving your neighbor as yourself, all about. This is do unto others as you will do to yourself. So this is what we call self-concept, or we call it what you believe, what you are. In short terms, what you believe of yourself is what you exactly become, and that's in short a terminology. This concept can be described in shortest terms. Usually this concept is built from childhood, from a 4 or 5 year old, how you've been treated by your parents, whoever you've been brought up with, and that's when this concept is built. And many people today, they struggle and suffer in this world because of their self-concept is totally destroyed. They do not have a good concept of themselves. You've heard people say things like, people curse themselves, and they say things like, oh, I'm always stupid, or they'll say, it's a bad habit, or they'll say, I never get this right, things like that. That is what I will term, what you call yourself is you become that person. So the moral of the story is that you should never do that to yourself, let alone anybody else. It's the moral of the story. So I will play my lecture, and then we will talk about it after Rabbi Kefa's lecture, and we'll take it from there. Tune in. Stay tuned. This is a good lecture. Shabbat Shalom Mishpacha. And those of you that are here, welcome in the room and have a wonderful and beautiful Shabbat. After a long week, let us now look into the events of the day and events of people. And I felt that this is the second time that I need to repeat this, because the first time I said it obviously may not have sunk in properly. And this is the very, very important part of Torah law. Now, I will take you through a number of things. Number one, as they call it, the golden rule, where Rabbi Yeshua, he told his disciples that he basically paraphrased what was written in Leviticus 19:18, came out of the Torah. He said, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And from here, do unto others as you do to yourself. However, we have in the book of Apocrypha, book known as Tobit, which says, do to no man that which you hate. And the rabbinic sources say, what you hate for yourself, do not do to your neighbor, which is in the Avot, the Rabbi Natan, 26. Also Rabbi Hillel, who was a first century rabbi during the time of Rabbi Yeshua, he also said, do not do to others what you would not have done to yourself. So, what do these statements mean? Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, unfortunately, as I said my last time as well, Christians have taken this completely the wrong way, and probably the rest of the world as well. because they think that feeding your neighbor if he's hungry, giving somebody a lift, maybe helping somebody in hospital, and so on and so forth, is loving your neighbor. That is absolutely not true. Not even a 1% true. Now, generally speaking, you are to help other people, irrespective of their creed and religion. But as I have seen in the country where I am, and in the country of America, and in the country of England, and in the country of France as well, and other countries, I have seen secretarianism. What is secretarianism? Secretarianism is that you don't like the Scots, you don't like the Irish. I mean, that secretarianism exists in England. You don't like the Welsh because they have a different accent. Now, in America, many people, and maybe I should put it not many people, maybe some people, do not like people of color. Maybe they don't like Mexicans. Maybe they don't like Chinese, especially after the virus, COVID-19. Many people started to hate Chinese for no reason, probably because they blamed the Chinese for giving the virus from Wuhan. I mean, of course, it's not the Chinese. I mean, the funny thing is, it's not the person walking on the street who brought the virus, who gave the virus to America or other countries. I mean, if it originated from China, for argument's sake, it originated, without somebody's knowledge and consent. So then, a lot of people, unfortunately, your conspiracy theorist types, they made it sound like it's a military operation, military invented it, and they sent it over, and blah, 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 and all that. So, again, I don't waste time with any of that. I'm simply going to say this, that what is love your neighbor yourself? Or what is do unto others what you hate? Do unto others what you yourself hate, do not do unto others, basically. So, this is love your neighbor as yourself, okay? It's a Torah commandment. It's a very vague in that, you cannot just literally take it the way it reads, because many things in the Torah cannot be taken literally as you read it. But people do. That's what people do. People take it literally. And that's where they go wrong. This command is a self-concept command. What does self-concept mean? I will explain that to you in a second. Self-concept is the most important thing that you need to understand. Self-concept is not about your next door neighbor, it's about yourself. Where do you see yourself today? What do you think about yourself today? Where do you place yourself in the world? That is self-concept. And wherever you place yourself is what you will be. Many people that I have known have a very bad self-concept of themselves. And that in turn leads to their failures, it leads to their unsuccesses, and it leads to a poor life and possibly even poor health. These are all related things that affect you as a result of self-concept. So how do we address it? The way we address it is very simple, but before I explain to you how you address it, I want you to understand that you need to change your self-concept. If your self-concept is the state you live in, that's a state, by the way. If that's the state you live in, you will have a hard time calling in money. You will have a hard time calling in the things you desire. You will even have a hard time with love, with spouse, with everything in life. Everything in life will break as a result of self-concept, bad self-concept. So I will encourage you to get a card, a piece of notepad, maybe a notepad and a pen is all you need. And I want you to change your self-concept from today. Write down things like, I'm highly favored. I'm deserving of love. I am a special person. I am chosen. I am chosen first. I am someone worth showing up for. I deserve to receive love. I deserve all the wealth and abundance in the world. These are some of the statements that you should be writing, and there are many others. I'm only giving you an example of what you can write and what you are. You really are this. Look, you've been chosen. That is true. You are part of a highly favored people. That is true. You deserve all the success. That is true. You deserve all the love. That is true. You deserve abundance. That is true. So I have not given you anything false or a fake statement. These are all true statements. Even if they were fake for a second, even if they were, they are still true for you. And this is what you want to write. These are the statements you will repeat day in, day out, no matter what, rain, sunshine, snow, hot, cold winds, whatever, desert or no desert. You're going to repeat these statements daily. This I want you to do daily. And you must focus on this every day, because you got to make this a mission for yourself from today. I want you to write this down only once. You don't need to write it every day. Just write it once. But I want you to repeat this maybe 3 times, maybe 4 times every day. Make it a habit. Because everything hinges on these statements called self-concept, about self-love, about loving your neighbor. Loving your neighbor is all about loving yourself. It's not about loving your next door neighbor that you're meant to do good to anyway, but to yourself, for yourself. It is absolutely a must, because the Torah, the rest of the Bible, is replete with statements which indicate such a thing. The Torah is replete with these statements. And in Exodus chapter 15 verse 13, in your unfailing love, you will lead the people you have redeemed. In your strength, you will guide them to your holy dwelling. By showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. This is coming out of the Torah, Exodus chapter 20 verse 6. Therefore, it is very important to understand that there are not one, but there are hundreds of statements for God, saying maintaining love to thousands, Exodus 34:7, and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation. There are a huge number of statements in the Torah alone that talk about love. In Leviticus 19:18, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh. He even talks about Leviticus 19:34. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself. For you were foreigners in Egypt. I am Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh, your Elohim. Then it talks about Numbers 14, verse 18. Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh is slow to anger, abounding in love, and forgiving sin and rebellion. There are huge amounts of statements in Torah alone, in the 5 books alone, not even looking at the other books, tons of statements that talk about the kind of love that you're supposed to have and the kind of love that God gives us. So what does it mean? Self-concept is so very important and so unlooked, so much underlooked and under-evaluated and unevaluated and not appreciated. So it is time that right now that you start to appreciate and start to look at these things, because they are important. They are not just rudimentary statements only to be read, once every 3 months when you feel like it. These are statements that I'm giving you. There are many others you can formulate yourself. If you're not sure, there are people, maybe countless people out there that write affirmations and they sell books. Maybe you can buy a little book. Maybe you can get something that will help you to formulate affirmations. Maybe you can do a little search. And there are free booklets on the internet that talk about how to write affirmations and how to bring them about. Or not so much how to bring them about, but how to write good affirmations, at least. The Torah also speaks about the reason that God chose our people, us, because He loved your ancestors and chose their descendants after them. He brought you out of Egypt by His presence and by His great strength. And that is in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 37. Then in Deuteronomy 5 verse 10, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. And then So within that, I'm going to iterate one statement that comes straight out of the Torah, out of this particular Parsha, chapter 37 of the book of Genesis, in which it says that now Yaakov dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. This is the genealogy of Yaakov. Yosef, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and Yosef brought a bad report of them to his father. Now Israel loved Yosef more than all his children, because he was a wise son to him, and he made him a tunic of fine white linen. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Now, within this thing, a lot can be said and a lot can be done, but it's very simple to understand that Jacob, the dad, he favored Joseph highly. Since he favored him highly, can you see what happened at the end of that? It created two classes of people. He created a class of people where his brothers didn't like him. They were jealous, number one. Number two, he actually became much more famous than all of his brothers put together. Now that is self-concept at its best. Even though it says that Joseph brought a bad report of his brothers. I mean, let's face it. It doesn't tell you what exactly was that bad report. We could look into that, but it doesn't say much about it. But what this particular little chapter, this little paragraph, if you read that paragraph and you look into it, you're going to find that out of this whole scheme that we know from history is that Joseph became the most famous amongst his brothers to save his nation and to save many nations. So this again hones my point that self-concept, self-love. He received self-love from his father. His father loved him. He obviously told him that. He obviously probably bought him gifts. And indeed then Joseph bought gifts for his dad. I mean, learn from it. This you need to learn from. You need to learn to love your children. You need to learn that in return children will love you. And your children will become successful. Haven't you seen rich families, billionaire families? They send their children to the best schools in the world. And they make sure that they stay away from all, high-tech stuff before they're of age. So they don't get any funny, energies crossing to their head. Also, you will note that they will make sure that they'll do things that other families don't do. Listen, this is all about self-concept. Rich people understand this much, much better than those that are middle class and poor. Poor, unfortunately, don't understand anything, including the middle class. They know nothing about it. So, really, I only read a little bit of the chapter of this particular passage, but a lot more can be said because it says that his brothers hated him and could not speak peaceably to him, okay? So, and then it says Joseph dreamed a dream. So Joseph was favored. Joseph had dreams. He could interpret dreams. What is all that about? That is all about a person who receives self-love, who is loved by his father, who knows who he is, and that in turn leads him to successes. Even though his brothers try to do evil to him, he still becomes more successful. That should really speak thousand volumes to you, that you need to start doing this from today, and you need to really start understanding this. He goes on to tell you the commands. In Deuteronomy 6:1, he speaks about the love the Lord your God, love Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh your Elohim. These are the commands, decrees, and laws that Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh your Elohim, Lord your God, directed me to teach you to observe in the land that you're crossing the Jordan to possess. And then Deuteronomy 6:5, which is a famous verse that all Jews recite today, talks about the loving the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. Verse, and in chapter 7 of Deuteronomy, but it was because the Lord loved you and kept the oath he swore to your forefathers. So, again, keeping the covenant. God is a covenant God. He talks about the covenant all the time. He talks about the oaths. He talks about the things that he promises that he made to our forefathers, and he speaks about them and keeping them, and through those. And again, I will interject in this particular area is because it speaks about loving God. Okay? God who lives within you. Now, if you don't love God, or let's go the other way, because people make this, fantastic statements out there. You meet so many people in the world today, and, they'll say, oh, I love God, and I go to church, and I do this, or I love God, and I do my 5 times prayer, and blah, 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 and all that. Listen, if you don't love yourself, you do not love God. Your 5 times prayers, your 3 times prayers, your 2 times prayers are of no value to God. When you behave in a particular way in which your self-concept comes out as evil, your love is really of no use. I've seen people in this country who do that. They will swear and they will say things by the holy book. They will say other things, and they will use God's name to swear, but then they lie. They lie left, right, and center. They don't do the right thing. They don't respect their parents. They don't respect their husbands. They don't respect their wives. They don't respect their children. And yet they think they're going to benefit. This is a world we live in. We live in a world in which it's fakery at the best. It's total fake. It's total fake. People who do such things do not love God, they do not love themselves, and their lives go down the rot. Their lives go down just as much rot. They have so much rot in their lives because of what they do, how they behave. And so, I'm teaching you that in order to love God, you must love yourself. Where does God reside? This is a question that we all need to ask. Where does God reside? And when you answer that question, then you will know that God is within you. If God is within you and you hate yourself, therefore you hate God, how can you love anybody? How can you love people? How can you say you love people? How can you say you're a good person? None of these things then matter if that is the case. And it is the case. Today, there are people who are maybe more successful, and there are people who are less successful. Have you seen how many people in churches today are less successful? And the reason for that is very simple, because churches teach you to hate yourself. Show me one church that teaches you to love yourself. Show me one church that says look after yourself. Show me one church that says to you, build yourself. I haven't heard no churches say that. I heard churches, pastors talk about loving God and paying their tithes to them that are not even due, so-called pastors, bunch of liars really. And then you have other people in churches, they're told, hey, punish yourself, the more you degrade yourself, the more you think you're a sinner, the more you think you're down, the more God will like you. That is absolutely a lie, because that lie has kept so many good people that go to churches in down and out in their lives. So start learning that churches are not your friends. These so-called pastors, I don't care, what color suit they wear, and I don't care, what words they recite, but they're a bunch of liars, majority of them are a bunch of liars, and they can't even stand up to scrutiny. So this is my challenge, to find a good pastor who can stand up to scrutiny, who can really claim that he is what he claims to be, because they don't exist. I haven't found one yet. Listen, I haven't found one yet. So I went to Karachi not too long ago. I just came back last night. Even the person there who claims to teach Torah, he won't face me. You know why he won't face me? And he's been talking about me and against me about Kabbalah and things like that, and he won't face me. And there are members of his congregation that know me, and they know what I am. They know who I am, and they know what I do. But those people, they benefit, but the so-called pastor calls himself a pastor. And I said, when was a title given as a pastor? Put this little statement out. When was this pastor title put out in the Torah? Can I see it? Where is it exactly in the Torah where we're called pastors? So that's number one issue. Number two, why would you call Kabbalah evil? Listen, Kabbalah in the Hebrew language means receiving something. Kabbalah Shabbat we use to receive the Sabbath. Kabbalah Torah means we have to receive the Torah. And if you start telling people that Kabbalah is evil, then you are evil yourself. So that person will not face me because he knows the day he faces me, I will destroy him. He knows that. The Kohen's in the gate. The Kohen stands there smiling at his wicked face because he is wicked. As simple as that. This man is wicked. And I said that standing there. And I said, what? That so-called pastor, a woman came to me, a real genuine widow. She came to me and she gave me a story about this person. She's been supporting this church of his for, I don't know, for 20 years maybe. And the day she had her husband, or somebody died, and she had no money to put funeral out, and somebody else who was in the Torah helped her make the funeral. She called the pastor home and she said to him, hey, I'm struggling, and I don't earn that much money, and I'm going to put this funeral out, and I don't have the money. And you know what he told her? He told her, I'm sorry, I don't have money either. This is a Torah, this is supposedly a Torah pastor. And I was just laughing because I just laughed, I looked at this widow's face and I just started laughing and I said, if this is your pastor, then that's quite sad because he is not worthy to be called a Torah teacher. He's not worthy because look, the way he behaves is not right. And, I went to this widow's house. I looked at this widow's house. She called me to her house. She said, please come to my house and pray in my house. I said, I don't need to come and pray in your house. I will come and step in your house and your house will be blessed. But just by my step, your house is going to be blessed. And you will see for yourself. I went to her house and I saw her upstairs room. She had quite a large house that her husband had purchased before his death. And there was a room upstairs that had no windows. There was like one window that was missing, 2 doors that were missing. And so she started telling me that my late son, the elder son, died because he had cancer. He was meant to complete this room. And there was 2 doors and 1 window that he couldn't complete. And basically the room is, the room's been painted and everything. It's got furniture in there, but there was no windows and there was no window and no doors. And so I said to my student, I said, well, that's interesting, isn't it? So I said, so this widow doesn't have 2 doors and a window. And I said to him, I asked him privately, after she went out of the room, she made food for me. She made food for me, and that day I couldn't go to her house. And I said, I'm sorry, today I won't be able to come to your house because I've already eaten. And she said to me, I made food for you. And I told her, I said, not a problem. I said, look, you save your food in your fridge. Do you have a fridge? She said, yes. I said, put your food in a fridge and tomorrow when I come, you give me the same food and I will eat it. She said, you will eat the food from the fridge? 100% I will eat food from the fridge. And so she went, and then the next day I went, she brought that food out from the fridge and I ate that food. And I said to my student, I said, how much would it cost to put 2 doors and a window in this room? Because she had made this room and she said, I wanted to serve this room for a man of God. If any man of God would come into the city, then I wanted to give them my room so that they could stay in it. And that reminded me of the story of the widow that you read in the Bible. And I said, how much do you think this will cost? And he said, I think we could probably get this done for around $150, $200. I said, okay, consider it done. I said, I'm going to give you the money. I'm going to put you in charge and you're going to do this for me, for this widow, and report back to me when this is completed. He said, okay. So, I thanked the widow. I did my little petition around in her home. I, did the energy clearance in her home and I left and I said to the widow, everything will be well. Do not worry. things will go well for you. And we came. This is the pattern of a real Torah man. The pattern of a real Torah man is not one who says, "Oh, I'm empty. I don't have no money. In fact, you need to give me money instead, and I am broke." If somebody tells you that they are broke and they're in Torah, they're a liar, and you should not even be in their so-called church or whatever ministry they call themselves. Okay, so we'll continue from here again. The blessings are opened up for the generations that follow of the house of Israel. So, since you have joined the Torah, since you have accepted it, since you have accepted it as your law, since you have accepted it to follow it, since you have accepted to obey it, since you have accepted to be in compliance, then therefore it applies to you. It is not by force. Nobody can force it on you. Nobody does. It's only when you accept it by your heart and by your own thoughtfulness, by your speech, that you accept the covenant, that you accept the Torah, that you accept the laws, that you make them binding to yourself. That is when God's promises, everything that God says in these books belong to you and to you alone. Yes, others can come and join. There is no restrictions. It's not a private club. Everybody can join. Everybody can partake of the blessings. Again, this is not a club where you have to pay your fees to join. There's no fees. You just have to be diligent. You just have to accept the decrees, the laws that God has given, and then just follow them and live by them. And you can have abundant, healthy, happy, prosperous lives. Is that too difficult? I don't think so. I have seen in my ministry, in my time of teachings, and Rabbi Kefa can attest to it as well in his lecture, that the Torah is the most easiest thing to keep. The laws are the most easiest laws to follow. There is no, 1,000 traditions on top kind of thing. It's very simple. The Sabbath is such an easy one to follow. It starts in the morning, sunrise, finishes at sunset. 12 hours. How difficult is that? Okay, some people who live in the nations who have difficulty taking a day off because they work in another nation and they don't have Saturday off, that's understandable. God's not going to punish you for that. And those people still work their Sabbath so they can put food on their table simply because they're not allowed to take Saturday off. Maybe in that nation, Friday is a day off. Like where I am, Friday is a day off. And Christians take Sunday off as a day. So, those that are Torah keepers, some of them, they get Saturday off. Others, they have to go to jobs because their jobs require them to be present. They do not allow them Saturday off. That's very understandable because God does not say to you, hey, give up your job and take Saturday off. It doesn't say that. So, very first primary is your family, is the food for your family, food on the table, for their life, for their health, for their well-being. That's what you got to think and do first. And God does the rest. God understands it. God does not criticize you. God does not count that as a sin towards you. And God does not punish you for that. So there is nothing to worry about. When in the future, when we go back to the land, when we have our days, when we have our Torah as law, then you will have Saturday off. Then you will have Sabbath off by law. And the whole country will be shut down. So why worry about it right now? If you can do it, great. If you can't do it, no worries. We'll wait to do it. Again, I come back to the focus. The focus is self-love. Self-love is so important that so many people miss it. And so many people don't realize it is the self-love that is causing their manifestations to backfire and not come to pass. But when you understand that self-love is what causes your manifestations to come to pass, start living in the state of self-love. Start loving yourself. You are loved. You are wonderful. You are great. You are marvelous. You are beautiful. You are lovely. You are pretty. You are handsome. You are amazing. You are the best. You deserve love. So many of these statements that you can make for yourself, considering self-love. When you tell yourself this daily, if only you repeat yourself 2 statements. I gave 2 statements to a girl over here. And there was I gave her 1 statement first. She didn't have a job. She's struggling from a poor background. didn't know what to do, just thought that it's going to be hard, it's not going to be easy, it's not easy for her, and she thinks maybe it's not for me. And I told her one thing, I told her to write it down that I have a job. I have a wonderful job. I said, just write it down and repeat it every day. 10 times you're going to repeat it. She wrote it down, she repeated it 10 times. This week she came back to me and said to me, I want to give you some good news, I've got a job. Okay? Now the next 2 statements I gave her, I said, you got a job? Great. Now these next 2 statements, you're going to tell yourself every day that you are lovely, you are great. Those 2 statements you're going to say every day. And I told her to stick to those. Self-concept is very, very important. Since we can see that in the Torah, there is so much emphasis put on this, so it is very, very important that you understand the emphasis of this particular set of commands, set of laws that govern your life, because whatever you think you are, right? If you tell yourself all the time that you are no good, if you tell yourself that you always lose, or that you always make mistakes, if that's what you tell yourself, it's like some of these things come from the parents, when you're young, and they continue to ram that into your head that you're no good, that you're good for nothing, and when you grow up with those false belief systems. And those false belief systems are what causes you to make further mistakes, cause you to fail in your life in different areas. And you may have a bad marriage, you may have a bad job, you may have problems in other areas. It's because of the false belief system that your parents gave you. So you now need to let go of those false belief systems. They are self-concept statements that have destroyed your life. And you can thank your mom and dad for that, who are ignorant in these matters, have been ignorant all their life, and they've ignorantly passed this on to you. And now you got to let go. You got to let go and forgive them for their ignorance, and let go of those statements and start to practice the right statements. Start to program yourself with the right statements. You are great, you are wonderful, you are lovely, you are amazing. You do everything great, you do everything right. People love you because you deserve to be loved. People are good to you because you deserve to be receiving the good. There are many, many things that you can write, and there are many ways to say these things, but like I'm giving you simplest forms to say these things every day and to help yourself. Now, think about it. Think about it. Do not take these lightly. These are very important, and these are detrimental to your life and to your success. Now, remember, I've given you these. I want you to write. Like I told you earlier, get a notepad. They're not expensive. A couple of dollars. Pens are pretty inexpensive. You can buy a little pen. You may already have a pen in the house. May have already paper in the house from your printer or something. Just take a printer paper. If you don't have a notepad, just get a printer paper. A4 size paper, a pen. Write these down and paste them somewhere where you can see them. And just repeat them every day. Every time you pass by your kitchen fridge, put them on your fridge, repeat them. Every time you go to bed, put them in your bedroom, repeat them. Is that too difficult? You're at least in your bed twice a day. When you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed at night, twice a day. At night you're at bedtime, and in the morning you're in bedtime. So if you only repeat them twice a day when you get up in the morning, first time, when you go to sleep, last night you go to sleep, you repeat them. In the morning you wake up, first thing before you go to your bathroom, when you rush off to your bathroom, repeat these statements first. I mean, what's so difficult about repeating 5, 6 or 7 statements? It's easy. You do them first. Then you go to your bath. Then you do whatever you need to do. Wash your face, brush your teeth, take a bath, etc. Take your shower and whatever. And then you go and do your other things. But make sure you repeat, because those are the best times to do it, by the way. The best time to repeat these statements at the night when you sleep, in the morning when you wake up and you're half asleep. That's the best time to do it when you're in called theta state. When you're in theta state, they will be absorbed much faster into your body into your brain, and they will be much more effective. So read them at night, at least a couple of times, and in the morning, if not at least one time in the morning, if not twice. I would recommend, highly recommend, to do it 3 times a day. Especially go visit if you're at home, if you're a live at home mom or a live at home housewife. If those of you are at home, then you can easily do these. And if you're a working dad, if you're working outside, you can carry a little card with you. Those of you who are drivers, truck drivers, I have some students who are truck drivers. If you're truck drivers, put them in your truck and a little card in front of your dashboard, and you can just read it. Once you're driving your truck, you stop somewhere for a break, you stop for a break, or before you start your truck, read these statements. When you shut down your truck, you finish your day, read these statements before you leave. So I highly suggest to you to make this a habit. I can guarantee you this. If you make this a habit and do it every day, you will turn out the better man. You will find that your manifestations are happening faster now and quicker because your self-concept has changed. You will no longer have resistances. You will no longer have blocks. You will no longer have mishaps. If you're a man or a woman, for both of you, this is my recommendation to do it daily. Do it at night. Do it in the morning. Do it in the afternoon. Do it daily. Build your self-concept. And that's where wealth lies. Your wealth, your abundance. If you're finding that those statements are taking time, it's only because your self-concept is poor. Your self-concept is weak. You need to get rid of the weakness and the poorness and build your self-concept. Once that is built, voila, things will start to move. Things will start to shake. Things will start to happen. And then you will see it for yourself. Some people spend their entire life, this is funny, because some people spend their entire life looking at numbers. Oh, I saw 777. Oh, I saw 333. Oh, I saw 444. I saw 999. Don't waste your life just looking at numbers. Because all you will be doing is manifesting numbers. You want to manifest good things in your life. You want to manifest wealth. You want to manifest health. You want to manifest a great spouse. You want to manifest abundance throughout your life. So, instead of focusing on, I saw 777, start focusing on, oh yeah, I got my car. Oh yeah, I got my new apartment. Oh yeah, I got my $1 million. Start focusing on those things, okay? And those things are going to be built from your self-concept. Rest assured, you follow my instructions, you do well. You do great, not just well. So with this, I'll pass it on to Rabbi Kefa. Have a great day. Shabbat Shalom.
Several things that were said there. Shalom to you over there, over across the seas, Baruch Hashem as well. Several things that were said in Hakohen's lecture that were just like spot on. And how many of you understand this for you people how many people in the room like to eat? How many people in the room like to cook? Any cookers? Any we have any chefs in the house? I love to cook. But you know what I've noticed when you Shane Johnson, yeah, you ever notice like when you cook a meal originally, and I kind of brought to mind when Corey was talking about his conversation, his relation with the widow. When you cook a meal initially and you eat it, and then you have some what they call leftovers, and then you store away the leftovers, and then you may warm up the leftovers like the next day or maybe 2 or 3 days later. And it seems like the leftovers taste better than the original meal. If you're with me on that, put up an L for leftover. Has anybody ever experienced that as well? To where you'll find that the leftovers actually taste better, or you let it sit up in the fridge for a few days, and that meal tastes better than when you originally cooked it on the day that you ate it. Isn't that something? That's something, right? In the same way... Same way with Hakohen's lecture. He had mentioned to this. This has been taught before. But, again, when you hear it again, it's even better, and it even more resonates with your ruach when you're in with self to, put a flame underneath it to really give you concrete instruction to move you, propel you, and move you forward in the direction that you want to go. Beautiful. But also was wonderful to me And, I mean, all of us in this room, family, we've read these stories in our history. I mean, probably 5 or 6 times. And I'm being conservative. How many of you? I mean, you all have read these stories. You know what goes on in our. I mean, you know our history back to front because we go over our history every Shabbat. We're talking about some part and parcel of our history, of our patriarchs, of our great patriarchs and great matriarchs. So, yeah, we're getting all this great instruction that we can learn from, and that we can utilize and utilize as our compass to propel us in whatever direction we want to go in. Because your direction may not be my direction, and my direction may not be your direction. But what really resonated with me was this point that Akoi made in his lecture, and again, to Rabbi, Akoi, for your lecture, is the focus on the upbringing and the importance, and I wrote it down this way, the importance of a father's love. The importance of a father's love is very, very pivotal in the upbringing of children. How many of you understand that? How many of you get it? And I can guarantee you, here in the West, a lot of people haven't really experienced the love factor from a father. They haven't. I have coworkers, they talk about it. How many of you know people, or maybe you even had that experience as well, as to where you never experienced this love that Jacob had for Joseph? You know what I mean? Like with your own father, you never got that kind of love. Now, I understand, due to conditioning and due to the upbringing that we received in the nations, that it may not seem what they call down here in Little Mexico, machismo. It may not seem macho for a man to display love for his children. And on that aspect, we have to look at it this way for the blacks and browns here in North America. I don't know how it is in the UK, Lion King and Lion Princess, but there is a high percentage of blacks and browns when it comes to men that are incarcerated. Is that true in the UK as well, Lion King and Lion Princess? Are the prison institutions overly populated, or we just look at the numbers? Are the numbers skewed towards the blacks and the browns when it comes to the numbers of males that are in prison? See, we see a high ratio that are incarcerated. So why am I going there? You said, Rabbi Kefa, why are you going there? And I know Brother Davis can probably speak more to this as well, because he actually worked in the prison systems here in North America as a correctional officer. So he'll be able to add some great input, put some great sauce and great seasoning in this stew that's cooking. Because this is what happens. When someone is incarcerated, that means they're what? They're separated from their what? From their family, right? They're separated from their wife or girlfriend. They're separated from their children, sons and daughters. There's a separation period that occurs, right? And sometimes these incarcerations are for, multiple years. You're not just talking about, a one-off and, okay, yeah, you get a year and then you're out and then, correct yourself. You've been corrected. Now go out and be a great citizen to society. Some of these people, and I noticed this under the Trump administration, is that they really kind of highlighted this area. Some of these people, and he exonerated several, I know this particular one woman who was incarcerated for 20 plus years just for being in possession of, I think, marijuana, and she was given like 20 years, 20 something odd years, and he exonerated her. And I think she actually has, and this time has written a book already about it, which I thought was, quite interesting. So this plays a role in the so-called breakup of a family, because that's what you get. And so, a lot of children grow up, and I get to this point now because I have a lot of colleagues who have been raised this way. that were raised with just a mother and not a father. We see here in the West a lot of mothers raising children. How many of you see that? A lot of mothers are raising sons and daughters while the father is away. And they'll use the term baby daddy. Well, he has a baby daddy. I don't know where he is, but the baby daddy is not there. He may not be incarcerated, but he's not around. You know, we call that the baby daddy syndrome, where they just have a baby daddy, but that's all it is. There's no father love. There is not even a father in the picture. And if there is a father in the picture, the mothers hate the father. Hang on to that word hate for a minute. The mothers hate the father, so guess what they tell the children? You're just like your father. You're not going to be nothing. You act just like that old deadbeat father of yours. The bleep, bleep, bleep never paid any child support and blah, 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 blah. This is the kind of upbringing that a lot of children here in the West, meaning North America, get. So they're raised without that father. But then we see in our Torah the importance of father's love. And who gives us that demonstration? Who gives us the illustration? And who gives us the instruction? But Yaakov, he shows us that when you a proper way to love your sons and love your daughters, but more importantly, love your sons, because we see sons are very important. And for all you men in the room, for all you men listening via Facebook or listening via YouTube, I want you to understand this. It's not the responsibility of the mother to raise the children. That responsibility falls on the father. That responsibility falls on the father. Understand that. I know that's kind of counterintuitive. Remember, I always say here, if it's popular, do the opposite. Well, it's popular to assume that it is the mother's role to raise that son or that daughter. Well, it's not. That's contrary in our Hebrew culture. It is the man's responsibility to raise that son, to take care of that daughter. Remember, when the daughter, and that's mentioned in this part of the parsha as well, when the daughter has some kind of situation, she's told, and she's married, and she has some kind of situation in her marriage to where the husband's not happy, the husband automatically sends that daughter back to who? To the father's house. Not back to mama. Torah never mentions, okay, go back to your mama and correct yourself. No, go back to your father. Are you seeing this? This is very important for you to understand. For all the Hebrews in the room. All you Hebrews in the room, you need to understand this about our heritage, about our culture, and about how we do things. Now, one thing I do like about North America is they'll make these men responsible, even though they don't want to be responsible for that son or that daughter that they did have, and they kind of want to be the baby daddy, and they kind of want to be out there doing whatever they want to do, and kind of abandon the role of being a father, is they'll make you pay the child support. That's a big one. Lion Princess is saying, I'm not sure. Stats show other nationalities. Baby daddy syndrome is present. Black on black crime is also present. Wow. Yeah. So those things still go on and they perpetuate, again. So that hatred that particular mother that birthed these children by a particular man that's no longer around is prevalent. And so that's all that these children see. And they grow up thinking that. And a lot of them grow up hating their father and they never even met their father. And I see that. I'm seeing that. As a student of human nature, I sit back and watch that. And not affording their father the opportunity. Yeah, of course he wasn't around and they use all these kind of excuses. But then when the father tries to come around or be around, then there's so much hatred that's built up there that nothing can get on. They can't get on in a relationship. And the relationship is negative from the jump. You see, because why? All the old baggage is there. And that's totally not fair. And that's not just. That's totally not right. You see? I'll tell you my situation. And I'm talking to you from, my father. May he rest in peace. And he is in peace, Baruch Hashem. But my father, he took us away from my mother. He played some shenanigans with the court system and was able to take us away me and my sister and my younger brother was able to take us away from my birth mother when I was like, I must have been like 2 years old. Must be the Hebrew in him, huh? Because he wanted to assume the responsibility and take on the responsibility of rearing his children. He didn't want my mother to have us. So he played some shenanigans, and he was able to hoodwink the court, and he got custody of us. Do you know how difficult it is in North America for the father to get custody of the children? How many of you understand that in North America? That the courts are swayed to give the children to the mother. That's just what it is. Unless the mother is a drug dealer, or just a downright just criminal, it's very hard for that to occur. But you see, the Hebrew coming out in my father, he understood that it was his responsibility. So I went many years. I was 2 years old. I went many years. I didn't have any contact with my birth mother till I was like, I think, in my 30s. Yeah, 30s. I had no contact with my birth mother whatsoever. No contact, nothing. I just, whatever my father told us what happened, he never really went into it. So I was raised by either, my father's girlfriends, because my father was a real Hebrew in that area when it comes to relationship with women. His girlfriends or his wife or the extended family. My father's, my father had 12 brothers and sisters. Well, 11 and counting himself. 11 brothers and sisters. So raised by the family. But basically went to grandma because we would always go to grandma's house for a while until my father could get situated to where we can, live with him. But my father assumed that responsibility of taking care of us. How many of you can say that about your father? How many of your fathers was on the scene? Put up an F if your father was there for you and you experienced father's love. Put up an F. You say, yeah, let's put it out there. Put up an F if you had father's love, because that indeed is a true blessing. That is a blessing to get father's love. Mishpah. Father's love is very important. And this is what Jacob is teaching us about father's love. The father got to be there. The father got to cultivate love and cultivate all the positive forces, the positive energies, and instill in self, in the son, the importance of who they are. And they are important. And they are something. And they aren't nobodies. And black is not bad. Black is good. And you can be successful. And I do love you, son. And I'm going to stand right with you. And we're going to do this together. And I'm going to teach you many things. And you're going to be successful. Ukashir. That's so important to get. Because, let's face it, mothers can be manipulated. I'm seeing that with my two-year-old son. And he understands that. Mothers can be manipulated. But fathers, they more concrete. And, with Nakshan, and he gets it now, he'll go manipulate his mother, do a little cry scene and da-da-da. But at the same time, he's looking over towards me. He'll go play the cry role, but when he looks at me, the tears dry up. And he just looks. And all I got to do, I don't say anything. I just give him the look, Shane, y'all. You know that look. You know the look, Shane, y'all. I just give Nakshan the look, and he corrects himself real quick. And then I give him the look, but then, you know what I follow the look up with, Mishpah? I follow the look up with love. Then I give him the love. I say, come here, son. Give Papa a kiss. Call me Papa. I say, give Papa a kiss. And then he'll correct himself. You know what he says? Then he'll say, Papa, nay. I don't even have to say no, because then he'll come and he'll correct himself after I give him the look, and then I give him love. That's what I do. So Nakshan's learning what's good for self, and then what's not good for self. What no means, and then what yes means as well. You see? So, the importance of, what a great lesson that Yaakov gives us, the importance of love. See, many folks, and I'm so glad Yaakov brought that up in his lecture, about the importance of, family being there for the children, and especially the father. To God for your responses, by the way. And you are so blessed to have a father to give you the experience that father's love. Because here in North America, a lot of that love is not there. It's just not there. It's absent. It's not there. So the children cannot begin to, let me use the word from our parsha, begin to settle. They can't settle within themselves because there's always, if the mother and father, and women in the room, women listen, I'm not being chauvinistic in no kind of way, but I'm just trying, you guys play the most greatest role. I looked at my wife the other day, I told her, honey, I just can't, it's just really, really wonderful. I just can't believe that you come out of, Menachon comes out of your body. He came out of your body. And I look at him, just giving her a kiss and just hugging all on her. And I'm like, honey, it's amazing. It's amazing. You know, that Nachshon came out of your body. And she likes it, and she gets all giddy. But it is beautiful. It's a wonderful experience. Brother Davis is saying it's true. Black and brown outnumber the whites in prison. Then they try to be slick by saying the numbers are the same. If you're African American or dark skinned, they label you as black on your ID card. And your white, light skinned / Asians are put on the ID card as white. And the African Americans still outnumber the whites in prison. That's the North American perspective coming from a correctional officer that actually worked in these kind of facilities. So what I'm telling you is all statistical. You can go look at the numbers, and it's true here in North America. That's just what it is. Why is it that way? I'm not here to explain that, but it just is. But you have to look at the effects and the effects of what happens with that. And behind every man, there's majority of the time some children behind. You know what I mean? Behind every man, especially here in North America, there are some children there. It's not too many people who don't want to beget children here in North America, or who didn't beget any children here in North America. So there are children involved. And you see, now, to really settle a child into this world, you have to come from that ground roots and the fundamental, foundational principles of a mother and a father to be there. That's important. I'm seeing the effects of not having that. I'm seeing it in children, and I'm like, wow. And you can tell you never had a father figure around, did you? Because there's just so much disrespect. There's no respect there. Like Rodney Dangerfield used to say, I get no respect. You know what I mean? So this parsha, and we look at, because, I want to focus this parsha, number one, on the father's love, but number two, on Joseph himself. Because there's a lot of relationships going on in here, a lot of experiences happening within the family. But I want to focus this on Joseph, because Joseph received, he got some great love from his father. He was a favorite. Look at Genesis chapter 37, verse 3. Again, the Hidden Truth with Great Scrolls. You don't have this Bible, please get it, add it to your library, utilize it in your studies, and do yourself a great service. Genesis 37, let's start with verse 1. I go ahead and read this, but I'm gonna follow up on this just a little bit. It says here that in our Torah, it says, now Yaakov dwelt in a land where his father was a stranger, the land of Canaan. I'm gonna stop right there. Now Yaakov dwelt in a land where his father was a stranger. Yaakov settled in a land where his father was a stranger. He settled in a land where his father was a stranger. Does that resonate with anybody in this room? It should resonate with all of us. Where are we to settle? We're not to pick up and just go back to Israel and da-da-da. No, we're to do just like Yaakov did. We're to settle in a land where our fathers are a stranger. The Torah is telling us what we need to do, but when you listen to this wacky leadership, this misled leaders out here, they'll have you all over the place. Burning the passports in the land where your father was a stranger. Picking up all your stuff and going to Israel where you have no kind of way of getting any kind of occupation worthwhile. Where you're living like a fourth-class citizen. Why? It's because your leader is telling you to do it. The Torah didn't tell you to do it. The Torah told you to follow the motto of Yaakov. To live in a land where your father is a stranger. And to settle there. Settle down. Pitch your tents. Or, in our time, buy houses. Hashem. Brother David said, we are strangers in America. Oh, indeed we are. Baruch Hashem. Don't let them call you American or Americate. You're Hebrew, Baruch Hashem. You are Hebrew. Nakshan is learning that. He is Hebrew. I didn't learn that. I learned that I was African American coming up. My father called me and he said, you a nigga. That's what you are. That's what I got coming up. My father called me and he said, you a nigga. That's what you are. You a nigga. I said, well, what? What is that? You know what I mean? Where is that on this thing? But, because I always question him about that. I said, Father, Pop. I was like, Pop, what are? But go back to my father and actually tell him, I said, Pop, I found out who we are. I said, we are the people of the books. I remember I had just finished watching Kohen's video on YouTube. I said, man, this man, he was dressed like a Muslim. He looked like a Muslim to me, but he was telling me that, you know, a lot of these people here in North America are people of the books. We're the people. We're Hebrew. And my father just laughed it off and said, okay. He laughed it off. I remember when he's the first one I told. I went to my papa and said, Pop, I know who I am. I know who we are. I know who we are. So it's important that we understand. Yeah, we strangers in this land. So what are we to do in this land? Tear it down or build it up? We're to settle down and build this baby up. Make it more stronger, more powerful than it's ever been before. Wherever you at, don't matter. I'm here. I just so happen to be dispersed and scattered here in Texas, in North America. And believe me, I'm going to make Texas, everything is going to be big in Texas and better. And don't mess with Texas because I'm not messing on Texas. You see? I'm not here to shout down Texas talking about, oh, Texas do that and Texas. No, that's not my role to play. I'm done with following what's popular. Listen to all this media out here that's telling me how I need to be and the robot. No, I'm not in all that. I know who I am. Baruch Hashem. I am Hebrew, descendants of Yaakov, descendants of Yitzhak, descendants of Abraham, Baruch Hashem. That's who we are, man. So how do we function? How do we act? Do we act just like the nations? No, we show ourselves set apart. We're different. In a good way. We're not set apart by protesting and burning stuff down. We show ourselves set apart. And just like I said in this lecture, anybody else that want to come in and join this set apartness, come on, man. Come on and find yourself. Love yourself. Be self. Don't try to be something else. And this is why I titled the name of this part, this lecture, Do Yourself Favor. Not do yourself a favor, but do yourself favor. Because you know why? I want this lecture to be all about Joseph. Because Joseph did himself favor. He saw himself favor. Look at Genesis 37:3. Now Israel loved Joseph. That's father's love right there. I tell Nakshan that every day. I say, Nakshan, you the love of my life. I say, Nakshan, I love you. He just looks. You don't really understand. I say, I love you. He starts a little laughing there. I say, love of my life. And he looks. He wants me to say again. He'll say, huh? I say, love of my life. He'll say, huh? I say, love of my life. Tell him that now. He's 2 years old. I'm telling him that. I'm ingraining it in him. You know what I mean? Because when I look at Nakshan, I see myself. I see myself. I have left. I'm molding and I'm selling that legacy down. And I'm molding him and I'm building that. I see it. I'm just laying a foundation, solid foundation, where Nakshan can take it and build upon it. And he'll do the same to his sons and his sons' sons, Baruch Hashem, as we keep it moving. Now, Yisrael loved Joseph more than all his children, Baruch Hashem, because he was a wise son to him. Now, think for a minute. Joseph at this time is what? In his teens? And look what's being fed into him. Not only Torah is telling us this, but I guarantee you this is how Joseph thought of himself. Joseph went around saying, I'm wise. went around saying, I am favored because my Father loves me. Torah says above all the other children. Why not? Shouldn't we all be saying above all? Like he gave some examples of some affirmations you can write down. You should be first, not last, right? Well, Rabbi Kefa, that's kind of pushing a little bit. You're kind of being braggadocious. No, you're first. You want to be last? Okay. If that's what you want to be. You want to be in the middle? Okay. If that's what you want to be. But I want to be the head and not the tail, correct? Unless somebody want to be the tail. I was watching this Flintstone the other day, and they got this costume, Fred Flintstone and Barney, and they were in this donkey costume, and Fred took the head of the costume, and Barney, he didn't want to be the tail. He's like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be behind you. I don't want to be the tail. And I totally get that. Who wants to be the tail? But yet, this is how a lot of folks see self as behind. Why? It's because they've been told, you're an ass. Where's the ass at? The ass is in the behind. It's behind you. But you're the head. You're not the ass. You're the head. Don't let nobody call you a donkey's ass. Because you're not. You're the head. Baruch Hashem. Brother David said, like Akoin said, if you want to be all these different types of groups, the UIC, the APC, the 1 to 3, just be self. Just be yourself. But again, in fairness to humanity, wherever you're dispersed and scattered in the nations, you've been fed a bunch of shit. Let's just call it what it is. You've been fed a raw deal. They conditioning you in such a way to where you meet their categories. You cannot be an individual. You see what I mean? So you have to branch out of it. You got to come out of that. You got to come out of her and into self. You know what I mean? And that's just what has to happen. And a lot of people haven't got to that point. That was a revelation and a half that came from the Kohen in the gate. I was doing it by myself, but I didn't understand I had to get with self. Sunday that's guard day, man. I wasn't going to Hagee's church over here, man. Sunday was day to get in the guard, man. While everybody had dressed all the neighbors in their Sunday suits, man. I'm in my jumper suit full of dirt. Loving it too. Cause I didn't want to conform. I did not want to conform. I was done with that crap. Just crap, man. Just a waste. I mean, life had to be more. And I knew it. I said, man, life has got to be more than playing this same old record. And I began to understand through the tutelage of our Kohen that, man, it's all about what you want. It's all about yourself. How you see self. Baruch Hashem. So, how did Joseph see himself? He saw himself as favored. Why? Because his father told him was favored. And Joseph believed that he was favored. And he would say, I'm favored. My father loves me above all. I mean, if you have other siblings, I mean, come on, man. Do you want to be the head or not the tail? That's just what it is. What you want to be? You want to be first? So say you first and be first. You know what I mean? Be favored. This is the Joseph model. He's teaching us something. Torah is definitely teaching us something. So, again, when you start to think that way and you start to be that way, guess what also that attracts? Look at Genesis chapter 37 and verse 4. And when his brothers saw that his father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Man, my goodness. It's a thin line between love and hate, isn't it? I mean, we're dealing with siblings. Sibling rivalries going on. Instead of the sibling saying, oh no, my father loves me more, and beginning to affirm that and to believe that and to think that, guess what they start doing? The negative forces come in. Oh man, we hate. They start drinking the haterade, and we hate it. We hate you. We hate all you stand for. But they have the same opportunity to choose to say, okay, my father loves me just as much as he loves you. But they didn't do that. They took the easy way out. I mean, you had a great opportunity. There's a lot of competition going on. You got a lot of sons, man. You have a great opportunity to mean have a grand family of just loving sons. Sons of favor. No, but when the son see that one son is favored and is talking all his favorite crap and is doing all these, these things because he understands that he's special and he's being special and he's doing special while the others, they just putting in work. That's all it is. We just working. We just going through the motions because we have to go through the motions. No love behind what they're doing. No belief in it. They just doing what Father said to do, and that's the basics. Joseph knew. No, Joseph was favored. He knew, I'm favored. And he took that with him through all his experiences. Yeah, because we all understand Joseph went through some ups and downs. He went through some experiences. But he was favored. And he knew he was favored. You see, it's what you see and how you see yourself. Now, I was reserving this, but I guess I got to put it out now. I was reserving this because I'm going to talk about this in another lecture. Another one that's marinating in some vinegar and sugar and all my other little rosemary spices and all this, that, the other, the third. You've all heard the saying, seeing is believing. How many of you heard that saying? I won't believe it until I see it. How many of you heard that saying? How many of you heard the saying that seeing is believing? That's what they tell you in the nations. Seeing is believing. Now, I really want you to put your Hebrew hats on right now. This is a revelation that came to me this week. I'm still blown away. Get this one. Believing is seeing. Ooh, wait. Get what I just said. Believing is seeing. Now you understand why a lot of people run around here blind? Think about that for a minute. Believing is seeing. And this culmination of everything what Alcoy said in this lecture, it's the belief that sees. Think about that for a minute. But many people don't get that because they believe they have to see it first before they're going to believe it. Are you understanding? Oh, man, I'm telling you, I'm still like scratching my head on this and I'm like, man, this is some deep stuff here, man. This is heavy because the wise will understand it. And what that statement does is takes you right into self. Isn't that heavy, Torah? It takes you right into yourself. And it makes you examine, okay, well, what do I believe? Because what I believe is what I'm seeing. Ooh, wait. And what I believe is what is. Think about that for a minute, man. That's heavy, isn't it? But, again, remember what I told you. If it's popular in the world, do the opposite, and you'll be right the majority of the time. They'll tell you, you got to see it to believe it. No. You got to see it to believe it. Then, if that's the case, then you'll never see it. Think about that for a minute. And this is why a lot of folks, man, as a student of human nature, a lot of folks never get it. Hey, Nehemiah, isn't that deep? Right? That's heavy, man. That's you see, and that's why a lot, because they never see it, so they'll never believe it. And this is where they hung up. This is the I tell you. Man, when that came to me, I was like, whoa, I had to sit down. I had to sit down. It's like, wow, let me see that. Let me see that. Let me see it. In other words, I was saying, I believe that. I believe that. Because my belief is what I see. And everything that goes on around me in a 24-hour day. You see? So again, what was Joseph doing? He believed everything his father was telling him, that father's love. And that belief system went with him. And that's what he saw. No matter if he was in prison, get this. You know why? Because the Torah tells us in Genesis chapter 39, verse 21. But Yahweh was with Joseph and showed him loving kindness, and he gave him favor. Again, there's that favor. And he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Even in prison, Joseph still had favor. Why? Because Joseph wasn't in prison feeling sorry for himself. He realized and he went back to the foundation of what his father had taught him, or what his father had told him. And Joseph believed it, so that's what he saw. He didn't see prison bars, he saw favor. And that favor emanated into the... Listen, we have a corrections officer in the room right now. Now, Brother Davis can tell us. Brother Davis, as a correctional officer, retired, are there certain inmates in there that are favored by the correctional officers? Is that true? Is that a true statement? Or do the correctional officers just treat everybody equal? I'd like to hear from our correctional officer. He'll tell you. He said 100% true. You see what I mean? So, again, that's why even today, there's some inmates in there, they don't see themselves in prison. They still favored, and they still see themselves like to where that they can, they're even so-called incarcerated, locked up behind bars, still have capabilities of getting wine, getting their whatever play toys they into, cell phones. Well, I was in my postal people, and one of the postman's sons is incarcerated in prison. And he said, yeah, my son phoned me the other day from prison. From for a minute, you can take your favor with you wherever you go. If it's in you, if you believe you favor, if you believe you set apart, if you believe you special, if you believe you the apple of the Most High's eye, take it with you, believe it. Because if you believe it, then you will see it. Brother David says, more drugs and cell phones in prison than on the streets. Wow. 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 That is from a correctional officer, Mishra. So again, take with you your belief system. Because whether you take it with you or not, your belief system is going with you wherever you go. Because what you believe is what you're going to see. That's just the facts on the ground. That's just the facts on the ground. But a lot of people can't see that because they're blind. But Joseph wasn't. Joseph's brothers were. Well, you know what Joseph's brothers were blinded with? Torah tells us they were blinded with hate. They hated him. They were blinded with hate. All those negative forces, envy, hate, jealousy, all these things creep up. When your belief system is, let's just say, compromised. When your belief system is compromised because you allow your belief system to be compromised. You allow because that's what you believe. You believe in negative forces. You believe in hatred. I hate you because I hate. You hate because why? That's what you believe, so that's what you see. So if you hate, that means you hate yourself. You hate self. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't even know self to hate self, but they hate self. They're not happy with themselves. So how do they display that, manifest that? They hate other people. That's just the facts on the ground. Shabbat shalom to you, fat kid. But that's just the facts on the ground. This is not about no religion, mumbo. This is just about human nature. We all human beings. We all neighbors on this planet Earth. And you see this in every nationality, every tribe. You get this. You get this. You don't need to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist to really understand this. It's human nature. Torah tells us this. A holy books tell us this. From the abundance of your heart, the mouth won't speak. It's already in you. So then it just comes out. I hate you. Because what? Inside, you're not happy with yourself. People always tell me, man, you're in such peace. Where does this peace and this joy come from? Because it's already inside me. Where you get all this energy from? Because the energy's already inside me. It just comes out. You know what I mean? This is why we can all just sit at the mall and we can just examine people. That day I went to the post office. You know, post office is a federally run institution, correct? Now, post office just so happened didn't open at 8 o'clock a.m. They decided that, you know, it took a little while. It took a little while for them to open. They opened at like maybe 8:15. And there were people that were waiting at this and probably like 7:15. Let's just say 7:45. Waiting to get at the post office so they go about to do their merry thing and blah, blah, blah. Man, you should see the line. The line, there was a pretty, not really long. Maybe 8, 9 people in line. Waiting to go for the post office to open at 8 o'clock when it's supposed to open. Well, it just so happened that the post office opened at 8:15. Wow, was this not a great learning lesson for me to watch and study human nature and how people respond, those 8, 9 people in there? Oh my goodness. You just sit there and hear the stuff coming out of their mouth. They're going to do that, banging on the doors. Yeah, well, you know, it's 8 o'clock. I come here. I'm like, my goodness, man. You can take a healthy dose of patience. I can administer it to you. Be at peace with yourself. Eventually, they will open. You see, but I'm sitting back and I'm just watching all this, and I'm like, wow. You begin to see how people are ruled by Father Time. Father Time got them. They're ruled by being impatient. They're just totally impatient people. Can't wait. Don't know what the circumstances is. Don't care what's going on behind the scenes in there. My goodness, it's all about themselves and them getting their stuff done and blah, blah, blah. No consideration for others. You know what I mean? Student of human nature will take you very far. This Torah is all about human nature. It's all about people discovering themselves. These are the people that are going to gravitate to the Torah, are folks that discover self. They're going to embrace this Torah like no man's business. And they're going to understand how easy life is. And you're absolutely right. Torah is the most easiest thing in the whole world. It's easy. But you have to come to the Torah with self. You have to come to the Torah free and open to self. If you're not, then you're going to have issues. I was watching this YouTube video the other night about China. This man, he was in China. He was from South Africa. And he went to China. He sold all that he had in South Africa. And he wanted to start his little internet, his little IT business in China. He sold all that he had, moved to China, stayed in China 14 years, established a family, married a Chinese national. That marriage ended up in a divorce. He married again, begat a daughter, and he had been in China 14 years, and he decided to make this video. He's like, look, and the title of the video is The Reason Why I Left China and Will Never Go Back. And he began to go into his reasons why. And one of the big reasons, he had like 3 reasons. And one of the biggest, one of them was that, they watching everything. Another one was that they were watching even more things. And then the other one was that he realized that he didn't want to give up his freedom. He said that was his last. Number 3 was he realized that, to stay in China, he would have to give up his freedom. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to give up his freedom. So he found a way in the video. He talked about how he was able to get out of China. And guess where he came? He came to America. He said, America is like one of the greatest places where I can go and express myself and where the legal system is fair and it's not skewed and it's semi-fair. You know what I mean? So he said America was his best bet. But he regrets that he really hated leaving China after 14. He lived there for 14 years. But he said he had to leave. Why? Because he felt like his freedom was being infringed upon, and he felt like that he was freedom, and he didn't want to do that. Freedom for a human being is very important. And you see, that's what Torah offers. And if you notice, majority of the religions in the world utilizes our Torah in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Why? Because they want that freedom. But again, then they add traditions and customs to it, and they take and remove and blah, blah, blah. Judaism is good at doing that. They're good at heaping a whole bunch of tradition upon it when, just like our Queen said, and I'm affirming, the Torah is the most easiest thing in the world. It's beautiful. It's wonderful, and it's easy. But you have to come. Is Nehemiah in the room? Yeah, Nehemiah. You have to come to the Torah correct. You do. You must come correct. So you must come with understanding who you are, loving self, loving it, like I always say, loving your neighbor as you love yourself. You must understand that you must have that relationship with yourself first to be able to establish a relationship with the Torah. Otherwise, you can't mix with the Torah. This is why a lot of people come through here and they don't stay. Fat kid loves cake. A lot of people come through here and they just don't stay. Because why? They still looking for love, but in all the wrong places, and they haven't found that love within themselves first. See, they want to be able to point the fingers at everybody else for the reasons why their life is miserable, instead of getting down and getting to the grits and the greens and the meat and potatoes and realizing, okay, it all starts with me. I need to quit pointing the finger at everybody else and look at myself and begin to establish a great relationship with myself, begin to love myself, begin to be at peace with myself, begin to know myself. That's where it starts. And Torah is so internal, you have to internalize the Torah. It can't be external, otherwise it won't last. Your Torah experience won't last, and that's what we'll find. You see? So we understand and we see that Joseph, he knew he was favored. He was favored. He was favored. Joseph went around saying he was favored. And that's what he got, favor. Everywhere he went, he got favor. But then Torah juxtaposes us another great lesson of what happens, the difference between be favored opposed to do me a favor. You see, when I say do me a favor, what am I doing? When I give the phrase or the statement, can you please do me a favor? What am I doing? I'm relinquishing my power over to somebody else. Think about it for a minute. When you're asking somebody to do you a favor, hey, can you please do me a solid? Do me a favor. Then you're giving up the rights and the reign over to somebody else. And the control to somebody else. You see what I'm saying? I want you to see this for a minute. Because we got to go there. In my closing, I want you to see this. I want you all to be favored. Family, just be favored. You are favored. You favor. Be favored. Do favor. Favor. Have a relationship with favor. You are favored people. Some translations call you a peculiar people. You're favored people. Then be favored. Walk around favored. You walk in that office building, I am favored. You walk in that bank, I am favored. You walk on that job, I am favored. You're hanging out with your friends, I am favored. You're in that movie line, I am favored. You're at the airport, waiting in that line, I am favored. And you moved up to the front of the line. I'm the head, I'm not the tail. Everything I touch is prosperous. Everything I touch turns to gold and silver. You see what I mean? That needs to become a part. That you need to believe that, and then you'll see it. Okay, let's keep on because I need to get ready to close here. This is what I want to close with right here. The closer. Torah gives us the favored side. Now, the difference between being favored and do me a favor. Here we go. Look at Genesis chapter 40. We'll start at verse 1. And it came to pass that after these things that the cupbearer
and the bearer of the baker of the king of Mitzrayim of Egypt offended their masters, and the king of Mitzrayim. Look at verse 2. And Pharaoh was angry. There goes that word angry. Negative forces, anger, hate. And Pharaoh was angry with the two officers, the cupbearer and the chief baker. Look at verse 3. So he put them in the custody of the house of the captain of the guard in prison, the place where Joseph was confined. Okay, let's jump down to, you all know what happens, what Joseph did for these men. But look, let's jump down to Genesis chapter 40, verse 14. But look, now listen to this. Joseph done some great things. He interpreted their dreams and blah, blah, blah. That was great because Joseph is favored. Joseph is special. Joseph has these abilities, these special abilities. And all of you have these special abilities as well, if you desire, if you believe them. And then Joseph goes on to say this. But remember me, look at verse 14 of Genesis 40. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show favor to me and make mention to me, to Pharaoh, to get me out of this place, out of this house. You see, Joseph, he kind of gets weak here for a minute, because he's asking these guys, okay, do me a solid. I help you guys out. Now it's time for you guys to return this. When you go before Pharaoh, tell Pharaoh, did he kind of like forget about me down here? So he's asking for a favor. Instead of just saying he is favored. Instead of just saying he is out of prison. He's not incarcerated. No. He's asking for a favor. He's relinquishing his authority and his power over to somebody else. Hey man, do me a solid. If you favor, the favor is just going to come to you. You don't have to ask for it. It's already here. You understand the difference between asking for a favor and just being favored? The favor is already here. The favor is going to come to you. You don't have to go to it. And you definitely don't have to be begging. If you're begging, then you're not seeing. Or let's put it this way, you're not believing if you're begging. Anybody that's ever saw anybody that's begging for money at a stop sign, if you ask that person, are you a millionaire? They're going to look at you like you're crazy. They hand them out, and you're telling them they're a millionaire. Why? Because they don't believe they're a millionaire. They believe that they hand them out, and so that's what they see, hand them out. You get it? That's real. Now Joseph goes on into his sob story. Look at Genesis 40, which is all facts, by the way, Nehemiah. Genesis chapter 40, verse 15. For indeed I was stolen away from the land of the Abrahamic from the Hebrews, and also I have done nothing here that they should put me into the dungeon. Brother Davis, how many times you heard that story? I'm innocent. I'm in here. I'm innocent. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't hurt nobody. I'm in here by mistake. I'm in here. They got the wrong one. So, we conclude with this parsha by this. Remember, Genesis 40 and verse 14, Joseph is asking for the cupbearer to do him a solid, for the baker to do him a solid when they get out. Do me a favor. And then here's the fruits of his labor for asking for the favor. Genesis verse 40 and 23. Yet the cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Whoa, what a great lesson this is. How many of you are getting this lesson that the Torah, how many of you are getting what this lesson that the Torah is putting down? You're picking up what the Torah is putting down right here. Don't ever leave your desires, your aspirations, your dreams, whatever it is that you may be, don't ever relinquish those rights over to somebody else. Because they're going to do just what the cupbearer did. They're not going to remember you. They're going to forget you. Do you get it? You need to have full reign, full control. Why? Because when it all goes down, you can look at self and say, okay, this is where I need to make the corrections. Not, oh, I'm going to blame so-and-so. I told him to help me out. After all I did for him, I told him to help me out, and he still didn't help me out. See, that's passing the buck. You see? When you have all capability and capacity within yourself, self has the ability to do this. Joseph got weak here, and instead of be favor, he went to do me a favor. He's getting desperate. Don't get desperate. Some of you looking at your affirmations and nothing happening. You're seeing nothing materialize, so you get desperate. And you start to say all these things and do all these things that don't make any sense. And they become negators of your Torah. And then you get weak, and then you allow the negative forces to come in. And then your belief system fails you, so you'll never see your manifestations brought about. Because your belief levels weaken and become lessened. Don't forbid. Don't let, just be favored. You're in prison, be favored. Nothing happening, be favored. 2 months, be favored. 2 years, be favored. Don't ever give up or ever give in. Or what you desire for yourself is going to make you happy and give you peace of mind and give you joy and fill you with love. Don't do that. Don't ever get to the point to where you're begging, do me a favor, do me a favor. Nobody has to do anything for you. You have the capability of doing it all for yourself. You see, that's totally opposite of what we've been taught in these nations. We've been taught in these nations to get these handouts and to do all this and blah, blah, blah. Whatever happened to the work ethic of just going out and you doing it on your own? If other people want to help you, hey, they come up and help you. Listen, if somebody come up, knock on my door right now and say, hey, man, I got the keys to this Benz out here for you, I'm not going to reject them and say, oh, no, man, I'm going to do it myself. No. I'm favored, so I'm expecting that Benz. Thank you very much, sir. Do you need me to give you a ride home? You know what I mean? That's because I am favored. And I stay in the favored zone, Brother Davis. You get it? Brother Davis getting it? I stay in the favored zone. So, I mean, I'm not going to reject anything that you bring to me because why? You brought it to me. Kabbalah. I receive it. You know what I mean? Baruch Hashem. I was expecting that. Why? It's because that's what I believe. So now you just bring in the seeing part too. You see? So at the end of the day, we got to change our belief system. And how do we tell what people believe? Just by what they see. They'll tell you what they see, how they live their life, you see? That's just what it is. It's that simple. But humanity wants complicated. You know why they want complicated, Akoid? So that they can say they can't be successful. And they have somebody to point the finger at. You see, this is an old game. But we see through all that. Because we have Mother Wisdom, because we have our Kohen in the gate. You guys can see through that stuff and learn from it. Learn from their losses so that you can be successful. Baruch Hashem. I mean, so you don't have to live a mediocre of life because you're living a multiplier life. You don't live mediocre of a life. You live a life of multiplication. And if you don't live a life of multiplication, then you're dying. Literally and figuratively, you're just dying off. And I'm going to close with this. Get this understanding. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened with the two sons of Yahudah. They didn't want to live the multiplier life. And what happened to them? Torah told us On and were both what? They were killed, weren't they? Think about that for a minute. So I'm not telling you not that Torah had taught us or teaching us. It continues to teach us. If you deny or you reject the multiplier life, listen, they didn't want to multiply. They did not want to multiply. So guess what? If you don't multiply, you're going to die. Multiply. You got to, it's within human nature to want to multiply. Some people take it to the extreme, and that's why they go visit Brother Davis. Because they do whatever they can within the power of whatever they can do to multiply. If I got to go rob a bank, I'm going to multiply. I'm going to have that big house. If I got to go sell these drugs, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to be a nobody. I'm going to be a somebody. Then they take the wrong choices in doing that. You see what I mean? At the expense of hurting and harming other people, and that's just not Torah. Torah will never, and this is why he gave me an example of the so-called Torah man over there in Karachi. Torah will never harm or hurt people. That's not the formula of the Torah. Will never harm or hurt. So we have to look at that too and examine that going forward. On that note, I'm gonna wrap it up for the Shabbat. Remember, you have to decide to be what? You have the favor. You can either do yourself favor and that's the Joseph model. Do yourself favor. But again, you must understand, Joseph is a human being as well. Sometimes we get weakened. But even in our weakened state, we can still be strong. And we can come out of whatever situation it may be, and actually the situation will actually make us better and even stronger. And a great bit of experience that'll take us and propel us forward. Be faithful. Because you are faithful, unless you don't want to be. But you control that. Leave that do me a favor stuff, leave that alone. Because just like you see in this lesson here in our Torah, majority of the time, when you do me a favor, is probably going to be forgotten. You'll be forgotten about it. So on that note, we'll wrap it up for the Shabbat. I'll say Shabbat Shalom. Shalom, shalom to all of you. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Have a great 6 days of labor ahead. Let's keep it moving forward. Mishpachah for ourselves. It's time to get selfish and get into yourself. And get selfish so that you can continue to meet your desires and your wants and your needs. And hey, we're going to leave it open now for any questions that you may have with our Queen's lecture. Because I tell you what, that's pretty much spot on. That's the foundation for it all. You got to get inside yourself and begin to deal with yourself. And then your world will be so much of a better place because you love yourself first. So Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you. And over to you, Akohi. Over to you.
Yeah, Toda for that, Rabbi Kefa. I have the lecture, so no need to send it. Thank you. Okay, so just to again summarize that if you want to be very successful, if you want to be great achievers, you're going to have to start to build up layers and layers of this self-concept. Your self-concept is what's going to bring in your faster manifestations, your faster successes, and I'm going to give you a few just before I go, so you can still have a few to remember. And this is, you can build on these. Build on these affirmations, and if you're not sure, you can do a little Google search and find some on the internet. Maybe you'll find better. And there are books written on it as well. Amazon probably sells books which has many affirmations that people can use that are already been written, I don't know, years ago probably. And they could help as well. But the Torah is replete with affirmations. The only problem is this, that most people don't look at it with the correct eyes, so they don't see them. Now, God has, given you some affirmations, and again, I did recommend to people to just take those out and put them into positive statements. God says to you that you are blessed. Write down, I am blessed. God says to you that you will be a lender and not a borrower. You can say, I am a lender and not a borrower. These are positive statements straight out of the Torah. God says that you are head of the nations. So you should say that, I am head of the nations. You are limitless. I am limitless. God says that you will live in peace when you have the Torah. Then what should you be saying? I live in peace. there are other statements that you can use. There's tons of them. Even the first 5 books, loads of statements. And some of you women who are trying to look for good spouses, you need to raise your level of self-love as well. That's where you fail, because you don't raise your self-love, that you do not bring in the right people into your life. I mean, for you, self-love related to feminine side would be similar statements to as I am very pretty, I am very magnetic, I am super attractive, I'm always wanted, I am priority, I am number one, things like that. I have so many people who love me. Or you can say that, your specific person, my specific person emails me all the time, or he talks to me all the time, he loves me all the time. There are many SP statements, specific person statements that you can do to bring in that person. He loves what I do, and that really tallies it up. He loves what you do. You don't have to try to convince him at doing something that he doesn't want to. He simply loves what you do. So if you believe and if you serve the Torah, he will also believe and serve the Torah. You don't have to keep chasing him and telling him, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, and it'll be like burden to him. And don't burden him. But if you do it the other way, he loves he loves everything I do, and the answer will be yes. He loves me. Well, if he loves you, then he will love what you do. So these are self-concept statements that you raise yourself, and you build up this level every week, every day, every week you build up this layer. And when you build up this layer, you'll have happy relationships. I always have happy and healthy relationships. I am perfect. Money follows me wherever I go. Money loves me. Money is my best friend. Our friendship will last forever. I use money for the greater good. These are great statements to have. But they are not just one-off statements. You got to repeat them. You got to read them. You got to write them. Write them, repeat them, read them, and they will be really helpful for you. If you're a man or a woman, either way, you change it to yourself, and they will extremely help you. But this is what you got to do. And these are the ones that will bring in the right people into your life. If you keep getting bad relationships, if you keep hitting on bad relationships, that's the old man, that's the old self. Because, you keep looking in the past, and in the past you keep remembering the old statements. You keep thinking about that bad marriage, keep thinking about that bad partner, and that keep revolving in your head. And then what happens? The next partner that comes is also bad. But if you drop the past, if you drop the old man, the old woman, and you start thinking about the present, what you are presently, you're an incredible person. You are a highly favored person. You are a handsome person. You are a pretty person. You are super attractive. People are attracted to you. You get a very particular person for yourself who's just right for you. These are not difficult statements to write, and they're not difficult to read every day. You write them once, you read them daily. It's not that difficult. It is not that difficult. 2022 can be a great year for you. 2022, if you get your self-concept right, some of you are going to become millionaires. Get your self-concept right. Some of you will be millionaires. But that is very important that you learn, you listen to this lesson, you learn it and you apply it. Because when you learn it and apply it, that's exactly what you're going to get. Remember, you are priority. Remember, you are chosen. Remember these statements. You got to tell yourself these statements. People are not going to tell you that. Why they want to tell you that? Because they're trying to raise you up and put themselves down. They'd rather put themselves up and put you down. So now, rather than do that, you tell yourself that you are number one. You are number one priority. You are important. You are chosen. You're always chosen first. You're always given first priority. You're treated like gold. These are the things that you need to learn. Everything always works out for you in miraculous ways. And then for cars, as I've told you, whatever car you want, you become that car. If you want a Mercedes, and you are a Mercedes. I am a Mercedes. I am such and such car. And then whatever amount of money you want to receive, then that's the money that you apply to yourself. But before those statements will work, before they will work, you must raise your self-worth. If your self-worth is low, then that is where what we call resistance and blocks. Resistance and blocks are simply childhood traumas that have happened to you and they stop you from going forward. When that childhood trauma and that resistance leaves, because you continue to tell yourself, no, you're not that person. No, you're not the person that your mom told you. You're not the person that your dad told you because they gave you negative words. You are a better person. You are great. You are naturally beautiful. You are perfect. You have a beautiful body. These are the kind of statements you need to look at. And when you look at those statements, then you're going to start seeing wonderful changes happening around you. You're going to start seeing your manifestations come quicker. And you're going to say, wow, if I only known this before. So now you know. And listen to this, apply it, and your life is going to be radically changed. Have a great, wonderful Shabbat and great, wonderful day ahead. I do have the lecture Rabbi Kefa, so I'll just use that. Until next time, we'll see you. Shabbat Shalom. Shalom, Shalom.